viewers, this is Nimrod TV and you're watching Perspectives with me, MARYAM OlugboDE. In a stunning development, Burundi has accused Rwanda of plotting an attack, stirring fears of yet another conflict in Africa's already volatile Great Lakes region. Burundi's president, Evariste Ndayishimiye, isn't mincing words. He claims Kigali is actively working to destabilize his country, using rebels as proxies. This is not just another diplomatic squabble. This is an accusation of war. Talking is border. Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets in what could become one of the largest anti-government demonstrations in years. The reason? The arrest of Istanbul's mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu. If you're not following Turkish politics, here is why this matters. İmamoğlu isn't just a mayor. Is the biggest opposition figure in Turkey, a man who could challenge President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in 2028. His arrest? A game changer. Washington is in crisis mode. A classified discussion on military airstrikes was accidentally leaked to a journalist. But that's not even the most shocking part. The leak exposed top US officials mocking Europe, calling the continent pathetic and freeloading. Who let this happen? And what does this tell us about Washington's view of its allies? All of this is coming, but first the news headline. Nigeria's River State crisis. Burundi accuses Rwanda of war plans. Turkey in turmoil. US security blunder. Pentagon chiefs caught marking Europe in leak charts. Trump's oil war. US allows 25% tariff on nations buying Venezuelan oil. Israel hides full-scale ground offensive in Gaza. Now to the news and details. Nigeria's River State crisis. A political storm is brewing in Nigeria, the kind that could shake its democracy to the core. President Bola Tinubu has done the unthinkable, declared a state of emergency in River State. The move, controversial, unprecedented, dangerous.
In these circumstances, having soberly reflected on and evaluated the political situation in Rivers State, and the governor and deputy governor of Rivers State, having failed to make a request to me as president to issue this proclamation as required by Section 305, Paragraph 5 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it has become inevitably compelling for me to invoke the provision of the Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State with effect from today, 18th March, year 2025, and I so do.
It means the elected governor, deputy governor, and state lawmakers have been removed from power, and now a military administrator is in charge. This isn't happening in isolation. A group of pro-democracy activists is now taking the fight beyond Nigeria's border to ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. They'll file a petition calling Tinubu's action a civilian coup and urging the regional body to step in. This isn't just about Rivers State anymore. This is about the future of democratic governance in Nigeria. Let's rewind a bit. Why Rivers? Why now? For months, Rivers State has been at the center of a bitter power struggle between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his predecessor, Nyesom Wike. Once allies, the two men have become fierce rivals. Wike, now a powerful minister in Tinubu's cabinet, has been accused of trying to control Rivers from Abuja. The same political crisis exploded when lawmakers, mostly loyal to Wike, attempted to impeach Fubara. That led to violent protests. lawmakers switching sides, and ultimately a breakdown of governance. Then came the security concerns, or theft, rising crime, and most significantly, pipeline vandalism. A recent explosion on the Trans-Niger pipeline damaged a key oil artery, sparking fears of an energy crisis. And just like that, Tinubu's government stepped in. The justification to restore order and protect Nigeria's oil wealth. But the opposition sees it differently. Now, the matters landed at the doorstep of ECOWAS, a regional body that has been vocal against military takeovers in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. But this time, it is not a coup by soldiers. It is a civilian government suspending democracy in a state. The petition filed against Tinubu's action raises three critical points. First, it violates Nigeria's constitution. Nowhere does the law allow an elected governor and state lawmakers to be removed through emergency rule. Second, it threatens democracy across West Africa. If this move stands, what stops other leaders from suspending governors and taking control? Third, it could trigger violence. Rivers is an oil-rich state, and political instability there could plunge the region into chaos. So what will ECOWAS do? That is the big question. If it ignores this, it risks being accused of double standards. If it acts, it will be challenging a sitting Nigerian president, something it has never done before. And it is not just about ECOWAS. Inside Nigeria, resistance is growing. The Nigerian Bar Association calls the move unconstitutional. The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, warns that it set a dangerous precedent. What happens if Tinubu does this in another state? Will other governors be removed at will? Even within the National Assembly, there are cracks. While most federal lawmakers have backed the emergency rule, some in the opposition are warning that this could destabilize the entire Niger Delta region. Then there are the people. Protests have already started. Civil society groups are mobilizing. Legal experts are preparing court challenges. The tension is rising. Tinubu has made his move, but this crisis is far from over. Will ECOWAS intervene? Will the Nigerian judiciary strike down the emergency rule? Or will Tinubu dig in his heels and escalate the situation further? One thing is clear. This isn't just about rivers. This is about the future of Nigeria's democracy. And as the days unfold, the world is watching. Moving on. Burundi accuses Rwanda of war plans. Speaking at a public event, President Iyadishme made explosive allegations. He claims that Rwanda, under President Paul Kagame, is arming and supporting rebels to stay and rest in Burundi, just as it allegedly does in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. We don't have anything to ask of Rwanda, but the reviews because they have a bad plan. They wanted to do what they are doing in the DRC, Iyadishme declared.
The chairman of the East African Standby Force and Defense Minister of Burundi, Emmanuel Ntahomvikiye, told the Council of Ministers, Chiefs of Defense Forces and other dignitaries who converged at Sky Hotel in Kampala for the 27th Ordinary Session Policy Organs meeting of the East African Standby Force of alleged acts of aggression of the Rwandan army against Burundi.
The government of Republic of Burundi strongly condemns Rwanda's despicable acts against Burundi.
They concern the rebel group Red Tabara. This group has been operating in Burundi for years, launching attacks from neighboring territories. And now, Iyadishme claims Rwanda is actively backing them. If true, this could mean one thing: Burundi is under threat. Kigali isn't staying silent. The Rwandan government has called the accusations surprising and baseless. Officials insist that Rwanda has no intention of attacking Burundi and that these claims are meant to stoke tensions. But let's be clear. This is not the first time Rwanda has been accused of fueling conflict in the region. The DRC has repeatedly accused Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels, a deadly militant group wreaking havoc in eastern Congo. The United Nations and multiple intelligence reports suggest Rwanda has deep ties to various armed factions in the Great Lakes region. Burundi and Rwanda have had rocky relations for decades, marked by mutual suspicion and proxy battles. So, is this just diplomatic saber rattling, or is this something more sinister at play? The tension between those two nations is not new. It is historical, political, and deeply personal. Burundi and Rwanda share a lot in common: ethnic compositions, colonial histories, and internal conflicts. But that's also what makes them rivals. In the 1990s, Rwanda's genocide spilled over into Burundi, fueling violence. In the 2015 Burundi political crisis, thousands of opposition members fled to Rwanda, worsening diplomatic ties. In 2020, Burundi accused Rwanda of harboring and training rebels to topple its government. The allegations keep coming. The distrust keeps growing, and now war drums are beating again. Burundi's accusations against Rwanda are not happening in isolation. They're part of a bigger, deadlier game in the region. The DRC is already at war with rebels backed by Rwanda. Uganda is also entangled in regional conflicts, backing different factions. Eastern Africa is in turmoil. From Sudan's civil war to Ethiopia's internal strife, add to these the international interest. France, China, and even Russia are watching closely, all with their own geopolitical stakes. This is not just a Burundi-Rwanda issue. If things spiral out of control, this will become a full-scale regional crisis. Right now, there are three possible scenarios. First, diplomacy prevails. The African Union and regional mediators could step in to ease tensions before things escalate. Second, proxy war intensifies. Rwanda and Burundi could avoid direct war but continue fighting through rebel groups, turning the region into a battlefield. Third is an all-out conflict erupt. If Burundi and Rwanda engage in direct military action, the consequences would be catastrophic for both nations and the entire Great Lakes region. The international community is closely watching, but if history tells us anything, it is this: when tensions rise in Africa's Great Lakes region, they don't just disappear, they explode. Moving on, Turkey in turmoil. Ekrem İmamoğlu became a political force in 2019 when he defeated Erdogan's ruling party AKP in Istanbul's mayoral election twice. The first time, the government cancelled his victory, citing irregularities. He ran again and won by an even bigger margin.
He's quite warm and he's quite witty. He's been able to connect with different segments of the voters and kind of signal moving on from the traditional politics of the opposition party, which a lot of religious Turks or even Kurdish voters have kind of seen as, reaction against themselves. So he's able to build bridges and he's able to kind of hold his nerves in highly stressful moments and focus on the organization of his party. So I think that's what made him quite kind of a political threat for President Erdogan. And last weekend, when CHP, the opposition party, held some sort of symbolic vote that opened up to people outside of their party membership too, some of the estimates said more than 10 million people in Istanbul and across the country have went to this kind of voluntary kind of expression of support and voted for him to be the presidential candidate. That is a substantial amount of votes.
Since then, he's been a target of the Erdogan administration. First, in 2022, he was convicted for allegedly insulting election officials and was briefly banned from politics, a move widely criticized and politically motivated. Now, in March 2025, Turkish authorities have charged him with embezzlement and corruption. They claim that his administration misused public funds. İmamoğlu denies all allegations, calling it a politically motivated attempt to remove him from power. For the opposition, this is clear. Erdogan is trying to eliminate rivals ahead of the 2028 presidential election. And the response? Mass protests across Turkey. In Istanbul, tens of thousands gathered in Taksim Square, waving banners that read "Justice for Imamoglu." In Ankara, protesters marched toward parliament, demanding his release. In Izmir, Konya, Adana, and Trabzon, similar demonstrations erupted, uniting people across political lines. The government response: riots, police, water cannons, and mass arrests. So far, more than 1,100 people have been detained, including 9 journalists covering the protest. Clashes between protesters and police have led to over 120 officers injured, according to the government. But instead of dying down, the protests are growing. President Erdogan isn't backing down. He's labeled the protests violent uprisings and blames the opposition for inciting chaos. His government insists that Imamoglu's arrest is a legal matter, not a political one. But critics see this as yet another move to silence opposition voices. Under Erdogan, hundreds of journalists have been jailed. Thousands of political opponents have been arrested. Judges have been replaced with government loyalists. This isn't just about one mayor. This is about the future of Turkey's democracy. The world is watching, and some have already spoken out. The European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, has warned that Turkey must uphold democratic values if it wants to maintain its EU candidate status. The Council of Europe condemned Imamoglu's detention as an action against the will of the people and vowed to discuss it at an upcoming meeting. Germany's foreign ministry said Turkey's democratic process has been harmed and will raise the issue with Turkish officials. France's foreign ministry expressed deep concern and warned of serious consequences for Turkish democracy. The mayor of Athens, Aristokis, openly supported Imamoglu, saying, "Ekrem, my friend, we stand with you." Amnesty International described the Turkish government's action as a draconian and part of an escalating crackdown on peaceful dissent. Despite these condemnations, Erdogan remains defiant. He's betting that the world won't take real action. The battle is far from over, but the protests escalate. Will Erdogan's government use more force to crush dissent? Will Imamoglu be released, or is this the end of his political career? Turkey is at a crossroads. The next few days could define its future, and the world is watching. Moving on. US security blunder. Pentagon chiefs caught mocking Europe in leaked charts. A top secret group chat. Yes, a signal chat, the kind used to text your friends, was being used by senior US officials to discuss a military operation against Houthi militants in Yemen. But someone made a catastrophic mistake. He accidentally added Jeffrey Goldberg, a journalist from the Atlantic. The moment Goldberg realized what he was seeing, he did what any journalist would do. He screenshotted it. And the world saw what the US really thinks about its European allies. What was said? The conversation revolved around a planned US airstrike against the Houthis, but he quickly turned it to a rant against Europe. Vice President J.D. Vance expressed frustration. "I just hate bailing Europe out again." Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth responded, "I fully share your rating of European freeloading. It is pathetic. This is not a diplomatic slip-up. These are the top officials of the United States, people who shape foreign policy, revealing their raw, unfiltered thoughts." Washington might be trying to downplay this, but Europe is furious. The French government called the remarks deeply concerning and warned that the US should not take European alliances for granted. Germany's foreign minister said this is an unacceptable way to discuss NATO partners. The European Council President Charles Michel said the incident exposed an alarming level of disdain within the US administration. NATO diplomats privately described the comment as unbelievable and questioned America's commitment to transatlantic security. The timing couldn't be worse. Europe has been pushing for more autonomy in defense, and this scandal just gave them another reason to move away from US dependence. This is not just a diplomatic crisis. It is a full-blown security scandal. Why? Because this classified discussion about military airstrikes happened on an unclassified messaging app. Sensitive war plans were exposed. Top national security officers used the private chat like it was WhatsApp. The Pentagon now has to deal with a major breach of federal security protocols. The implications are hard. If a journalist could assess these discussions, who has could? The scandal tells us something deeper. There is growing division within Washington. Trump's administration has never trusted Europe. They has called NATO obsolete and demanded that European nations pay more for their defense. Now, its top officials are openly expressing those views in private, and it all got leaked by accident. This is not just an embarrassing blunder, it is a message. A message that says Washington's patience with Europe is running out. The US administration is scrambling to do damage control, but that damage is done. Now, will Europe distance itself further from the US? Will NATO allies start questioning America's leadership? Will head rolls in Washington over the security failure? One thing is clear. This was not just a leak. It was an exposure. And the world is watching. Moving on. Trump's oil war. US lost 25% tariff on nations buying Venezuelan oil. This isn't just another trade dispute. It is an economic missile strike fired straight at Venezuela's oil industry. Donald Trump has made it official. Any country buying oil from Venezuela will face a 25% tariff on their export to the US. The message? Choose business with Maduro or business with us. This is Washington's toughest economic crackdown on Venezuela in years. The policy, set to take effect on April 2nd, is meant to strangle Caracas' oil revenue, its last remaining economic lifeline. But this isn't just about Venezuela. It is a warning shot to China, India, Spain, Turkey, and Brazil, the countries that keep Maduro afloat. And it's already reshaping the global energy landscape. Venezuela is an oil giant living in economic ruin. For years, the US imposed sanctions on Maduro's regime, but it found ways around them by sending oil to China, India, and Turkey. Trump wants to shut that back door by punishing Venezuela's biggest oil buyers. Washington hopes to force Maduro to implement democratic reforms or cripple its economy to the point of collapse. It is a high-stakes gamble. Will he break Maduro's grip on power, or will it backfire, sending global oil prices spiraling? In all of this, who gets it the hardest? First, China.
In a major trade policy escalation, US President Donald Trump has announced a steep 25% tariff on all imports from countries that buy oil and gas from Venezuela. The move, set to take effect on April 2nd, is expected to hit major economies including China and India, adding fresh uncertainty to global trade. Since returning to the White House in January, Trump has aggressively imposed tariffs on both allies and adversaries, using economic pressure as a diplomatic tool. Announcing the latest measure on his Truth Social platform, Trump dubbed April 2nd Liberation Day for the US economy, signaling a new phase in his trade war strategy.
China is Venezuela's largest oil consumer. Over 60% of Venezuela's oil exports go to China, often disguised as rerouted through Malaysia or Singapore. Beijing now faces a choice. Keep buying Venezuelan oil and get slapped with a 25% tariff on export to the US. Cut ties with Venezuela and find a new supplier, risking an energy shortage. China doesn't want to back down under pressure, but will it risk another trade war with Washington? Second is India. India has been a key buyer of Venezuelan crude. It has good ties with both the US and Venezuela, but now it's caught in the middle. New Delhi must decide, side with Washington and give up cheap Venezuelan oil, ignore Trump's threat, and face economic retaliation from the US. With India's energy demand skyrocketing, this tariff could shake its entire economy. Third is Europe. Spain and other European nations have been importing Venezuelan oil, albeit in smaller quantities. Now they must decide. Break energy ties with Venezuela and comply with US sanctions. Risk losing access to US market, a far bigger blow than Venezuelan oil. Expect heated debates in Brussels. Fourth is Turkey and Brazil. Turkey is openly supporting Maduro, while Brazil has been expanding its oil deals with Venezuela. This tariff forces them to rethink their energy strategy. Does Turkey defy the US again? Does Brazil distance itself from Venezuela? The political stakes are just as high as the economic ones. But here is where things get interesting. US oil giant Chevron has been given a temporary license to continue operating in Venezuela until May 27. Translation: foreign companies are punished. American oil interests stay protected. This isn't just about human rights or democracy. It's about who controls Venezuela's oil. And Washington is making sure US companies don't lose out. Caracas is furious. The Venezuelan government has called this economic terrorism and an illegal attack on national sovereignty. Maduro knows its economy depends on oil sales. If China and India pull back, Venezuela's financial collapse could accelerate. But he isn't surrendering. Instead, he's doubling down on alliances with Russia and Iran. Expect deeper military and economic ties between these countries in response. Washington's decision has shaken the global oil market. Oil prices jumped within hours of the announcement. Investors face supply disruptions if Venezuela loses key buyers. OPEC is monitoring the situation closely. If China and India start looking for alternative oil suppliers, we could see higher oil prices globally. Increased demand from the Middle East and Russia. A reshuffling of global energy trade. The big question: will this tariff hurt Venezuela more, or will it backfire on the US and its allies? But what's next? This isn't just an economic penalty, it is a foreign policy weapon. Will China retaliate? Will India bow to US pressure? Will Venezuela's oil industry collapse, or will Maduro find a way to survive again? One thing is certain. Trump just threw a grenade into the global oil market, and the world is about to witness the explosion. Moving on. Israel hides full-scale ground offensive in Gaza. The war in Gaza is about to enter a dangerous new phase. Israel is considering a massive ground offensive, one that could reshape the battlefield, displace thousands, and escalate the crisis to unprecedented levels. This isn't just another military strike. This is war on a whole new level. And guess who is backing it? Donald Trump. With the Trump administration fully supporting Israel, the usual calls for restraint for Washington have disappeared. Instead, Trump's team is reportedly encouraging Israel to go all in, wipe out Hamas, and re-establish control over Gaza. For months, Israel relied on airstrikes, precision raids, and intelligence-driven attacks to weaken Hamas. But it wasn't enough. Hamas is still standing. Hostages are still held. And the ceasefire talks, they have collapsed. Now, Netanyahu's government is considering a full-scale military takeover of Gaza. Here's what the plan could look like. Israeli forces will push deep into Gaza, seizing and holding territory. Hamas strongholds will be dismantled piece by piece. Civilians will be forced southward, making Gaza more dependent on Israeli-controlled aid. Israel could establish a security buffer inside Gaza, ensuring long-term military control. The goal: crush Hamas, end the war, reassert dominance over Gaza. But there is a problem. This won't be easy. For the past few years, Israel's war efforts were restricted by international pressure, but that was during the Biden years. Now Trump is back, and he's not holding Israel back, he's pushing it forward. Weapon shipments from the US have increased. Washington is backing Israeli strikes, ignoring global calls for ceasefire. Trump's advisors believe this is Israel's chance to finish the job. Translation: Israel has a free hand. Under Trump, the US is not interested in diplomacy, it is interested in victory. Netanyahu is under immense pressure from all sides. Hardliners in his government want a total military victory. Families of Israeli hostages are demanding a diplomatic solution. The Israeli public is divided. Some want an all-out war, others want a ceasefire. For Netanyahu, this isn't just a war, it is a political gamble. If he defeats Hamas, he secures his legacy. But if this offensive turns into a disaster, his government could collapse. Let's not forget Gaza's 2.2 million civilians. If Israel moves in, the humanitarian disaster will explode. Entire neighborhoods will be wiped out. Food and medical supplies will run out even faster. Tens of thousands will be forced to flee, even though there is nowhere left to go. The United Nations has already warned Gaza is on the brink of famine. If Israel invades completely, the situation will become unmanageable. Arab leaders are furious. Egypt and Jordan have warned Israel against an invasion. Iran and Hezbollah are threatening retaliation. Even Turkey has ramped up diplomatic pressure. But here is the reality. The Arab world is divided. Saudi Arabia is silent. The UAE is watching from the sidelines. Qatar is trying to negotiate, but its influence is limited. For all the outrage and protests, no Arab nation has directly intervened. The question is, will that change if Israel invades? The situation is spiraling. Israel is preparing, troops are gathering, airstrikes are intensifying. If Israel launches a full-scale invasion, expect massive urban warfare with high casualties, a possible regional spillover involving Iran-backed groups, a long-term Israeli military presence in Gaza. If diplomacy somehow revives, we might still see a last-minute ceasefire deal brokered by Egypt or Qatar, a hostage exchange to de-escalate tensions, a temporary truce that merely delays the inevitable. One thing is certain, this war isn't ending anytime soon, and whatever happens next will change the Middle East forever. Now before I go, once again the news headlines. Nigeria's River State crisis. Burundi accuses Rwanda of war plans. Turkey in turmoil. US security blunder. Pentagon chief Scott mocking Europe in leak chats. Trump's oil war. US slabs 25% tariff on nations buying Venezuelan oil. Israel hides full-scale ground offensive in Gaza. Thanks for staying tuned. Once again, I am MARYAM Olugbote.